Welcome back to the Devori Darkin Show. And in today's episode, we have breaking news. The hostages have officially been returned, released. The president currently is in Egypt as we speak. He's made multiple rounds, multiple speeches. So we're definitely going to show you that some dramatics took place in both locations, actually. But overall, it's a great Monday on this Columbus Day, okay, for these hostages and their families. So that's what we really want to focus on. And secondly, Portland. I mean, they have descended into this bizarre chaos that took place over the weekend, and we're talking about some weird antics that they pulled in order to protest against ICE officials. So both these stories we'll be diving deep on, reading your chats throughout the show as usual, but of course showing you what both sides are saying and then giving you the bottom line. So let's go ahead and get into this first story where they're talking about the hostages have been released. Take a listen.
John, it is an extraordinary moment here in Israel. We've just confirmed with the IDF that all 20 Israeli hostages, all 20 living hostages have been released by Hamas. The last 13 are in the hands of the Red Cross. They are making their way to the IDF checkpoint right now. The IDF is still in 53% of the Gaza Strip. They had pulled back to that line, that ceasefire line, as part of the agreement. These last 13 hostages, some of whom had already been making phone calls and video phone calls with their parents and their spouses and their loved ones at the base in Re'im from their Hamas captors' phones while they were waiting for the Red Cross. The Red Cross then went through medical checks. They identified all 13 of the Israeli hostages, and now we can report that that convoy is on its way to meet the IDF as we speak. All 20 will return to Israel shortly. We have seen preparations at the Re'im base outside the military helicopters, which will bring the hostages to the three hospitals here in Tel Aviv that have been making preparations for the hostages, medical doctors, psychologists, care packages for the hostages who've been kept in unbelievable conditions for the last 2 years.
All right. So obviously this is it's great news. I mean, I just had an interview with Myron Gaines. Some of you guys may know of him. He's a big conservative YouTuber, content creator who clearly is not a fan of Israel. Definitely, there's a lot of other people too. But I think the common ground we were able to find in his conversation, I think on both sides of this debate, is peace. When you hear that hostages are being released back to their families, that's the right direction towards peace, no matter what side you're on. I think both sides can agree to that. And that's why I said it's a great day for those families. And of course, it's a great day politically for the president, because how many times people said he didn't know what he was doing, right? How many times did people say, this guy, he's just flying off the handle. He doesn't know how to do foreign policy, etc. And it seems to me that he has done more good, has made more progress than the last administration. And that's why you're seeing the reactions you're seeing. You haven't heard anything from Joe Biden. Now, of course, he's doing radiation, and, obviously we're praying that he makes a full recovery, because we're not leftist lunatics who want to see a former president die. And I digress on that. You definitely didn't hear any celebrations from Barack Obama. He refuses to still mention President Trump's name. And there's a couple other people we're going to expose on this show that continues to maintain that same attitude. But bottom line up front, this is great news. Now, during this speech that the president was making in Israel, or in Jerusalem, that is, he had this speech that was going on. It's very historic. And during the speech, I guess there was somebody from the left-wing fraction heckling the president. He was forcibly removed. Take a look at this.
Over and over again.
להוציא את חבר הכנסת עודה, להוציא אותו מהאולם, להוציא אותו מיד, החוצה, החוצה. החוצה.
This Knesset member, please expel this Knesset member.
להוציא גם את חבר הכנסת כסיף. להוציא את חבר הכנסת כסיף מהאולם.
Expel Knesset member Kasif out of the hall. Please expel him immediately.
Sorry for that, Mr. President.
And I'm
That was very efficient. So back to Steve.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was a little dramatic there. Not everybody agrees with this, by the way, just so we're all on the same page, okay? I mean, there's a lot of people who don't want to see or do. First of all, there's people who don't even believe in this peace agreement, that it's going to stand. They believe that it will be violated sooner or later. There are people who are very silent about this, but they were crying about what Israel was doing to Hamas, and particularly in Gaza, okay? So just understand all sides to this, okay? They were crying that there was a genocide taking place. And I'm not here to debate them over that. I'm just telling you what's happened. And now none of them are saying anything. I find that to be interesting. And then number three, you have people who totally support what the president is doing here, America first. If this is going to help us just go ahead and stop sending so much money and resources and energy in regards to this war and start focusing on what's happening here, I'm all for it, okay? I don't think it's wrong to say this particular point, that as an American citizen, our focus should be here stateside, not what's happening in Israel, Gaza, or between Israel and Hamas. That should take priority number 2 or 3 or 4, but not priority number 1. And as you guys have been able to see based on alternative media coverage, content creators, political commentators, mainstream media, there's been more coverage about Israel and Hamas lately than on other things that are more important in our country. I don't know, like maybe education and healthcare, you know, that debate that Democrats refuse to have because they want to keep the government shut down. But anyways, let's go to this next clip. This is the president shouting out Marco Rubio. He's saying that this is probably the greatest Secretary of State in history. Let's take a look at that now.
And I have a prediction that Marco will go down, I mean this, as the greatest Secretary of State in the history of the United States. I believe that. I believe it. And he and I, you know, we really fought it out. You remember, he was tough. He was nasty. Who the hell thought this was going to happen, Marco, right? And now I'm saying he's going to go down as the greatest. He will. He was always smart and sharp, and people respect him.
Yeah, he's definitely outperformed himself, definitely during this administration. It's interesting how people can change politically, and they can go from someone that people think is irrelevant to someone who becomes relevant, right? I mean, I think President Trump is an example of that at the highest level. I mean, this is a guy who no one believed he was ever going to become president. Some people say that he even believed he wasn't going to become president, and then he did. The fact of the matter is, it was just a short time ago where President Trump was on that debate stage destroying Marco Rubio. Now he's celebrating him and praising him for a great Secretary of State. So things can change, obviously, and this is politics. I mean, people flip on a dime. And the president has shown that. You know, you could be his enemy one day, and then another day you're his friend, because he's very transactional. He understands about getting results. So speaking of getting results, I think one of the biggest critics besides Obama has been Hillary Clinton, and he didn't waste any time bringing her name up during this speech. And so let's take a look at that now.
Good to say it. But when you settle 8 wars in 8 months, that means you don't like war. Everyone thought I was going to be brutal. In fact, I remember Hillary Clinton during a debate, she said, look at him, he's going to go to war with everybody. And actually, she said, he's got a personality that's all about war. No, and my personality actually is all about stopping wars. And it seems to work. It seems to work. But it also means this name change and our attitude that we're not going to go into a war. But if we do, we're going to win that war like nobody has ever won a war before. We will not be politically correct, but we're not going to be there. And I think, you know, as you mentioned.
Yeah, I love that. it's just so interesting how the establishment has wanted him to fail. And the more they want him to fail, the more they try to force it, the more it backfires on them. It's a great life lesson. Force negates. It backfires every single time. You can't force things to happen, okay? It's just the reality. And that's why the Democrat Party has been destroyed. It's no longer the party that we have known, okay? They have morphed into something that is purely destructive at this point, hijacked by the devil, in my opinion. And all of their ideas are never going to work for the average American. And it happens because they have filled their heart with hatred, and they have become blinded from critical thinking and looking at the truth objectively. So at the end of the day, I applaud the president, and I don't care what side you're on. I just think this is a huge win for the hostages and their family. Like, that's my focus today. Is we can debate until we're blue in the face about, Israel and Hamas and AIPAC and all this other stuff, and no one's going to stop talking about that. And while we're all talking about that, are we going to talk about the hostages and their families? I think that deserves attention. So, I also believe that is a common sense perspective. Now, in this next clip, we're going to go to a good portion of the speech where a lot of people thought this is where the president really made his point very clear and inspired a lot of people around the world who were watching. Take a look at that.
So now we're going to forge a future that is worthy of our heritage. We're going to build a legacy that all the people of this region can be proud of. New bonds of friendship, cooperation, and commerce will join Tel Aviv to Dubai, Haifa to Beirut, Jerusalem to Damascus, and from Israel to Egypt, from Saudi Arabia to Qatar, from India to Pakistan, from Indonesia to Iraq, from Syria to Bahrain, Turkey to Jordan, the United Arab Emirates to Oman, and Armenia to Azerbaijan, another war that I just settled. We are going to have hope, harmony, opportunity, and happiness here in the spiritual and geographic center of the entire world. That's what you are. Israel, America, and all of the nations of the Middle East will soon be safer, stronger, greater, and more prosperous than ever before. And I want to thank you all once again for this exceptional honor. This has been truly an honor. It's seldom that a president is invited to do this. And I love Israel. I'm with you all the way. You will be bigger, better, stronger, and more loving than ever before. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the Middle East. Thank you, everybody. Good luck. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right. Well, no question, this has probably been the most pro-Israel president we've had. I think that is obvious. And I think there are people who obviously don't like that. There's a lot of people out there that believe Israel controls everything about America and that everything we're doing, I guess, traces back to Israel in some way, shape, or form. And I'm not too sure I agree with all that. But I'm not naive to think that Israel doesn't have great influence on American politics. I think that is fair to say. But at the end of the day, what matters to us at this point, based on everything that has occurred? Because we can go back and litigate everything that led up to this point. But what matters right now in this moment, right now today, should be the hostages. No question about it. Because that's the only leverage that Hamas had at this point, and that's gone. And at this point, if we can wrap this war up, meaning the president and his team, and basically I guess, prevent Israel from continuing to attack and be in this state of mind that is war, 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 I would assume that would kind of satisfy us short term here on both sides of the debate. Because as long as this war is happening, then Israel is going to justify whatever action they take. And so if the war isn't happening, how could they justify some other action as far as war is concerned? And maybe that's me being a little naive, we'll see. But as it pertains to America first, it's good that the hostages are home, and now we can focus more on the proper debates that need to be had. And of course, Scott Jennings made the same point as far as why this is such a huge win for America, And it's the same thing with illegal immigration. All it took was a president who was willing, politically and physically, to take action to get something done here. Take a listen.
Not only is it a win for President Trump, it's a win for the United States of America. This is what it looks like when you have an engaged, strong American president willing to get involved on the world stage. The President of the United States of America, when he acts like this, when he engages in tough situations, when he puts American prestige in the middle of a situation, we can make things happen. It just takes a strong leader, honestly, to get it done. And so I like it that Democrats are supporting the president on this. Of course, Republicans think President Trump has done a magnificent job. But what that tells me is that this is transcending politics. This whole issue, has been on our minds for 2 years. And I think all Americans, whether you support Trump or you oppose him, or whether you support Netanyahu or you oppose him, or wherever you are on the spectrum, you want it to end. You want peace. You want the hostages to come home. And so for the American president on the world stage to be the singular figure brokering this deal, it makes me feel great as an American. And of course, I'm glad as a Trump supporter that he's getting the credit that he deserves. All right.
Yeah. So I'm with Scott Jennings on this. I think all it takes is a leader who has the will to do it. In case you guys don't understand, when you hear the will, what does that mean exactly, that word? Because when we're talking about politics, I notice that we use a lot of language, but we don't even understand the language that we're using. The will to do something means you have the focus to do it. And that's really hard to come by these days. Not a lot of people are focused on anything. A lot of people are distracted. And there's plenty of distractions for the president. And so the fact that we, as a country, as his administration is concerned, we have the focus to make this happen. And I think that is a wonderful thing. And it's really hard to do that, especially when you're talking about 8 wars, especially when you're talking about Chicago and Memphis and Portland, and you're talking about the Democrats and mainstream media. I mean, think about how much resistance this president is facing on a daily basis versus Joe Biden, as an example. I mean, they were treating him with kid gloves, as an example. And so I don't think we can lose sight of that. I think there's room to debate what we agree on as far as the strategy, the tactics, the geopolitics of it all. But I think where we don't need to debate, because the results tell the story, is whether or not this president is fit to lead, which he clearly is, and that he is setting an example that I think is tough to follow, because you no longer, coming after Trump, can say the words, "Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that." And guess what? He's doing all of this. He's doing all of this without any credit. He knows he's not going to get any credit for this. And that's why I want to play this next clip from Stephen A. Smith, because he talks about the fact that he's done all this without expecting much in return.
There is no doubt that he has done more than practically almost any administration has tried to do when it comes to ending conflicts around the world. And he's put himself in a position where the political capital that he stands to gain isn't necessarily that great. So his willingness to do so is obviously something that shouldn't be ignored, and something that should be, dare I say, applauded to some degree. Again, that doesn't mean I like everything he does. You and I can argue back and forth about a few things. But in the end, you are absolutely right when you point out that there's not much to gain for him in a lot of this, yet he engages anyway, and you have to give credit where credit is due.
Yep, that's a very good point. Very good point. And, some people don't like Stephen A. Smith. I think he has some solid points, some common sense points here or there. And what he was just saying is dead on. Think about this. This president is doing all of this, and he knows he's probably not going to get the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, common sense says he should, okay? Common sense said he should have gotten it in Trump 1.0. There's a lot of things that common sense says that he should receive and the credit he deserves. But history has shown us that's not going to happen for someone like him. It's just the bottom line to it. It's the gift and a curse that he is the only person that is experiencing, I guess, politically. Now, if this was the bomber-in-chief, deporter-in-chief, Barack Obama, they would be rolling out the red carpet, et cetera, full press coverage from mainstream media about how great of a president he is. It's the greatest president of our time, right? That's exactly what we would be hearing. But what you guys see here on the screen speaks to why this is even a problem to begin with, and it speaks to the mindset that exists. It goes like this. This was a poll conducted on October 9th by YouGov, it said, let me just zoom in here for you guys a little bit. How much a role do you think Donald Trump played in the recent peace deal between Israel and Hamas? Now, when you zoom out and you just look at overall, it comes in at 58% believe he played a role, whether it was minor or major. Great. And you had 16% who said no role at all. So I don't know what they're watching. 25% not sure. Let's go a little deeper. If we go to the politics of it all, when you're looking at Democrats, 15% of them believe he only had a major role. 36% said a minor role. 27% said no role. And 22% said not sure. Isn't that interesting? I mean, even independents acknowledge, hey, I don't know much about this, so we're just going to put not sure, 33%. 48% of independents said he played a role in this. And obviously Republicans, because we're tracking what he's doing, 78% said he played a role. So it speaks to the mindset. Let me look at the age here for a second here. So the younger generation believes that he did play a role. Okay. Yeah, that's really good. So the older we get, the more that they believed he played a big role. And if we go to race here, other 23%, interesting. Okay. All right. So I think you guys are getting the bottom line here. You know, this is the country we live in, where there are people who literally, I don't know what planet they're on. They're in a different America. There's no question about that. And where they get their information from, I think, sums it all up. And that is from mainstream media, people like MSDNC, and these left-wing commentators who do not care about facts whatsoever. Okay? The only thing they care about is bashing President Trump. It's Trump, 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 Trumpity, Trump. Okay? That's really what it is. All right. And by the way, they've taken the same habit and belief that people do with racism on the left, which is everything is about racism, blackity, black, black, right? Now, let's go to this X post by the former administration, or the former Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, where he claims that this is all due to their administration, that whatever the president has been able to accomplish so far is because of the prior administration. Now, tell me you're a sore loser without telling me you're a sore loser. You know, it's really fascinating. It starts with a clear and comprehensive post-conflict plan for Gaza. It's good that President Trump adopted and built on the plan the Biden administration developed after months of discussion with Arab partners, Israel, and the Palestinian Authority. It centers on temporary transitional authorities for Gaza's governance, security, and humanitarian assistance and rebuilding, led by Arab and international partners alongside Palestinians, backed by the United States, and ultimately handed over to full Palestinian control. Yeah, so I think you guys know what's happening there, right? And at the end of the day, if you're an American citizen, you don't really care to hear about all that, okay? What you care to hear is about the results, okay? The results. And so here is the president on Air Force One. I believe this was yesterday, responding to this comment from Mr. Anthony Blinken. Let's go ahead and play that.
Blinken says it's good that President Trump adopted and built on the plan that the Biden administration developed. What do you think about that?
Everybody knows it's a joke. Look, they did such a bad job. This should have never happened. This wouldn't have even happened. That was weak leadership, terrible. And the same thing with Russia, Ukraine. If just a decent president, not a great president like me, not a great president. If a decent president was in, you wouldn't have had the Russia-Ukraine. And this is, I would say, even more so. This was bad policy by Biden and by Obama. Remember when Bibi came and he begged that you not do what they were doing with Iran? You remember that, right? Begged them. And they wouldn't even listen to him. Everything they did was the opposite of what you should have done. And it's nice that they try and take a little credit. That was years ago, and the mistakes were made years ago, and it was both by Biden and Obama.
Yeah, they are a joke. I think that sums up the last administration. I mean, they were the ones who were weak on foreign policy that led to these aggressions. I mean, if you think about it, we can go down the list of how incompetent they truly were. But me personally, just so I'm speaking for myself, okay, as a veteran who served in the U.S. Army 13 years, what happened in Afghanistan was an utter embarrassment. Now, some people believe that really has no direct effect on what happened with Israel, has no direct effect on what happened with Ukraine and Russia. Whether it does or it doesn't, it still was an embarrassment foreign policy-wise. And let's not forget the service members who lost their lives in the process after repeated intel told them what was going to happen, and they still didn't get the support they were asking for. And anybody who served in combat knows exactly what I'm talking about, okay? And the fact of the matter is it's just humiliating at best. And the interesting thing, just as a personal note, I actually served on that base, Bagram Air Base. It's huge. It's a huge place. And when you're seeing the people running on the side of the C-17 as it's taking off, it's pretty dramatic. Anyways, I digress. And then when the service members are returning home in the caskets, what is the president doing? Looking at his watch. I mean, who does that exactly? A president who is cognitively impaired or does not care about our troops. Maybe he's the one that said that veterans are suckers and losers, as he accused President Trump of saying. And why do I say that? I say that because everything they accuse the president of being and doing is what they do themselves, right? I mean, how many times have you guys seen that over and over and over again? So that's why the point of this show, just so you guys understand, is to speak to the 2%. There is no convincing these progressive hacks. Their destiny is already set. They are full into this nonsense. That's their paradigm now. They have accepted this belief system that America should get rid of capitalism and go into socialism, that the government needs to parent your children, that kids can be a unicorn, they can be a female, a male one day, they could be they could be anything that they want to be. Not when you're talking about a contribution to society, but a freaking mental disease in their mind about what their self-image is. That's what we're dealing with the 48% on the left. And they don't care about crime, and they think black people are oppressed, when in my opinion, if anybody's oppressing anybody, I would say they're the ones who are really impressing the black community, because they're the ones who push DEI so hard to the point that it damaged the black image even more. Think about that. So again, I'm not speaking to those people. I'm speaking to the center independents who are like, Democrats have become too radical. And I'd like to get a fresh perspective without giving all this bias and spin and being told what to think. All of you guys, you watch stuff constantly, okay? You do your research. Some of you guys, right? You're really tapped in. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But there's a lot of people who watch the show who are just coming in, and they just want someone to give them the bottom line and show them both sides, and they'll make up their own mind. And I'm not too sure they're saving some of your friends and your colleagues. I don't think there's anything saving them. They believe in what they believe in. But I'll tell you this, just so you guys understand. My wife's family are Democrats, all of them. They're not registered Republicans, okay? But they're Christian. They go to church every Sunday, etc. Well, you know who they voted for in the election? They did not vote for Kamala Harris. They voted for President Trump because of the conversations of like I'm having right now, the thought processes that I'm sharing with you guys right now. So don't think that there are not people out there that need this or could benefit from your opinion or your way of seeing things. I'm telling you, there's a lot of people who listen, they just don't say anything. There's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'm glad I heard that today because I didn't see that. I didn't know that. And so that's why I just want to share with you guys quickly here, because sometimes we can get lost in all of the echo chambers and the noise and think we're not really making any headway. I would argue we're making a lot of headway here. Okay, so at this point, I want to get to some of you guys' comments here. And I think a good place to start first is going to be on the YouTube channel. And see what you guys have to say here. All right, let's go ahead and pull that up now. All right, while we're trying to pull this up, again, we're going live Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time on YouTube and Rumble. Just so you guys understand, on Fridays, it's Rumble Premium, which means it's more intimate live, where I answer your questions directly, and you have to get over to Rumble Premium to watch that. So just a heads up for the people on YouTube. But I'm going to shout you guys out first because I know you guys been with me since the beginning by reading the comments here. We got a couple of super chats. Okay, so Reef Hub says, keep being real with the community. I have mad respect for everything that you're doing. Thank you, guys. Happy birthday to the U.S. Navy, 250 years. Happy birthday to the U.S. Navy. Okay, let's go here. Deb Longo says, just found you recently shared you with my mom. She loves you too. She speaks for us and just keeps going. We are behind you. Thank you, Deb. Really appreciate that. Let's see. Let's see here. I'm really enjoying your show. It's cool seeing Tim Pool on your show. Yeah, it was really nice seeing him here as well. You know, some people were asking, like, what is he like? And he's a great guy. I think it's interesting meeting other people who've been doing this way longer than me, of course, and they've been definitely much more successful. They're just regular people, you know. That's how I've always seen these people. I've always had that kind of personality. I never really feel any different when I'm talking to people who are much more famous than me. I think they're just regular human beings, and it was really nice. Very knowledgeable, very into the history of things, and really articulate a couple of points. We're going to be dropping some clips from that live if you guys didn't watch it yourself. And then we had one with Myron Gaines, also known as the co-host of Fresh and Fit, also known as the guy who's anti-Israel, etc. And he was a great guy too. Very nice, very professional in my opinion. And I think it's great to see that side of people, because when you're watching people in front of a camera and they're in the moment of whatever they're talking about or whatever they believe in, it's easy to believe like they're always this way, they're always screaming or whatever. And that's not the reality. Okay, let's keep going. And we're going to have a lot of more people, of course, different opinions, all right? Because I like to hear from both sides. I don't know if we're going to be able to get any liberals on here, but we'll try, okay? We'll try. I know they don't really like to share their ideas with conservatives, but we'll see. Okay. What else we got? Are there pictures of the hostages being returned? Yeah, we actually showed that earlier in the stream. I thought you guys would have been able to see that. I guess not. But yeah, we showed that. And you can always go on X, guys. I mean, X is where the news is located, okay? X is where the news is always located. All right, now I've shown enough love to my peeps on YouTube, so why don't we show a little love to the people on Rumble, because this is why we're doing the live show, right? Let's see here. There we go. And I know some of you guys on Rumble is like, man, what happened to Russell Brand, you know, and who? I don't know what happened. I don't know him personally. I don't know what happened. I hope he's doing great, obviously. But my purpose here at this time slot in regards to Rumble is to continue to deliver the news and give you guys a fresh perspective and one that's not filtered through bias, but one that lets you make up your own mind. And there's plenty of things people disagree with me on, trust me. And that's good. We should be able to disagree. That's what we have lost as a country, our ability to disagree without thinking I have to murder you. Because that's where the left is at this point. They're done with the whole hate speech rhetoric. They're now taking violence into their own hands because they don't believe that what we're saying is okay. They believe what we're saying is Armageddon. And it's fascinating how much their minds have shifted to that way of thinking. It's really frightening. Anyways, let's read some of your Rumble comments. Whether you care to admit it or not, some Dems are intelligent. I agree. The problem is that they're usually low information voters who follow mainstream media too closely. Yeah. You know, I think an intelligent individual is self-aware enough to admit that. So I'm not too sure we could say that. You know, let me give you an example of why I say that. And I think this is a perfect example of what speaks to the purpose of the show. I read in a book one time from Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and he said, like, an educated person is not a person who has an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. An educated person is a person who knows how to use the mental faculties of their mind to get what they want out of life without violating the rights of others. You see, Democrats don't know how to use their mental faculties without getting upset and getting violent, throwing a fit, and trying to silence us. So they're not really educated. They may have degree after degree after degree. They may have worked for mainstream media establishments for the last 30 years. That still does not mean we're dealing with someone who is truly educated. A mark of an educated individual is someone who understands that they have to unlearn negative habits. They've got to delete negative ideas out of their mind and adopt new ones, meaning a person who knows how to adapt with the times. That's not what Democrats have done. So I hear what you're saying. I don't really follow. I think people, and by the way, which Democrat are you talking about? You talking about a 90s Democrat who technically is a conservative today? So that's interesting too. How many hostages were released? 20. 20 is what they were reporting. Let me see here. Letitia James committed mortgage fraud and accused Trump of mortgage fraud. You are so correct. I think you're responding. Thank you. Okay. You really cannot serve two masters. I agree. Most bodies came home today. Apparently 5 HBCU locked down after Charlie Kirk assassination. I don't know anything about that, but we'll definitely look into it. Let's see here. Big T-Dog Rumble is the bomb. Thank you, guys. First time here on your show. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate you guys. Yep, Rumble honors the First Amendment. That's why we're on here. We support what they're doing. Absolutely. Okay, so speaking of supporting what they're doing, what I want to do now is share this message from today's sponsor, because I do believe this is important because, again, you don't want to give Democrats power, because if they do, if you're thinking about your financial future, it could be a problem. What do I mean by that? Well, as you guys know, the Fed has finally dropped interest rates after pressure after pressure, leverage after leverage from the Trump administration. And that is great news. Obviously, we're still waiting to see what that does for American homeowners, particularly in these interest rates. But during this process, expenses have become a burden, and homeowners have been using their credit cards, and credit card interest rates, I mean, they're even up to 28%, I've heard the other day, which is, I mean, you want to dig yourself into a hole, use credit card debt. And so given that, the cycle of high interest debt makes it hard to stay ahead. And if you're a homeowner, I want you to call my friends at American Financing today. Why is that? Well, because many homeowners are able to see interest rates that have dropped in the low fives. And if you're comparing that to credit card interest rates, it's no comparison. Meaning, if you're looking to take whatever debt you have and find a way to pay it down, American Financing can help you use the home equity in your home to do so. And that's why they're saying they've been seeing interest rates as low as fives when going down that road. So there is an easy path to see how you could finally put your hard-earned equity to work for you. American Financing can help you pay off that expensive debt, free up your cash flow, and keep your budget under control. So bottom line is, their salary-based mortgage consultants are saving customers an average of $800 a month, and you could get started today and maybe even delay your next mortgage payment. So take control today. Make the smart decision. Call American Financing today at 866-890-9392. Again, that is 866-890-9392, or you can go to AmericanFinancing.net/Devori. All right, so why don't we go to our second story here, which is an interesting one. Portland, I mean, they have descended into this bizarre, chaotic situation in the way that they're choosing to protest this ICE officers, okay? And before I show you these weird clips from them, let's first start with the rhetoric from MSDNC, which I want to take time to debunk. Here is how they are describing Portland and their, I guess, way of pushing back on the president. Let's go ahead and play that.
We start this hour with Donald Trump's attempted military takeover of America's cities and an enormous gulf between what Donald Trump says and the reality on the ground. And there's almost no better example than this wild rhetoric about Portland, Oregon, where he is absolutely itching to deploy the National Guard. I want you to watch and judge for yourself.
Portland, Oregon, where it looks like a war zone. Portland is burning to the ground. You have agitators, insurrectionists. All you have to do is look at the television, turn on your television, read your newspapers. It's burning to the ground. Portland, Oregon. I mean, every time I look at that place, the place is burning down, and then I hear how wonderful it is. It's not wonderful. It's a disaster. That's almost an insurrection, that place.
Yeah. So, listen, according to MSDNC, Portland is safe, it's secure, it's prosperous. There's nothing happening there. Everything that the president is saying is an outright lie. And the reason why I wanted to cover this story today is not only just the bizarre behavior, but the tactics that mainstream media is using to continue to manipulate and use propaganda to program people to think that what the president is doing is wrong. I'm not finding what the president is doing is wrong. In fact, I think what the president is doing is needed. And the local people on the ground, some of them even voiced that support for the president. Hey, nothing else has worked, so might as well try. Now, unfortunately, as we already know, the local judge there, who obviously is against the president, has already ruled that he cannot deploy National Guard troops to Portland. And right now, we're waiting that ruling from the appeals court, Ninth Circuit, that already expressed some type of doubt that this lower court judge had the authority to do that. The authority to do what exactly? The authority to stop the president issuing executive orders? How does that? I'm not understanding how that works. And it continues to be an issue that needs to be dealt with by the Supreme Court. And they've already ruled that lower court judges are not there to override the president's executive orders. So it's interesting that it's continuing to happen. Now, here's a better update from News Nation earlier today about what's happening at Portland just moments ago. Take a look.
Right now, there's this growing anxiety in the city of Portland. Everyone just awaiting this court ruling on whether the Oregon National Guard troops will be deployed to protect federal buildings in the city, with the main focal point being the ICE facility right behind me. President Trump calling Portland a war zone, saying that the entire city is burning down. Now, over the weekend, we once again saw massive turnout of anti-ICE protesters. At one point, there was up to 1,000 people rallying and gathering outside, but we saw these high tensions moment, as you're seeing right now on your screen, where agents and the protesters were clashing. We saw several arrests play out on both Saturday and Sunday. You're seeing there an individual arrested, then brought inside the ICE facility by federal agents. And then you'll notice in our video, there is just a coalition of federal agents deployed to this ICE facility from ICE, Department of Homeland Security, Federal Protective Services, Border Patrol, and BORTAC. And just look at that shot right there of just all these federal agents on the roof of this ICE facility. Many of them you can see with those pepper ball guns monitoring the protests there on the ground. And the situation did get tense. We want to show you one of those more tense moments where federal agents would then charge into the crowds. They would make arrests. You're seeing that now, and this would actually start to anger the crowd. The crowd got more aggressive. That's when we saw agents on the roof shoot pepper ball guns. We saw tear gas deployed. Some of those protesters were actually able to fend off some of the arrests, some of them striking agents and agents striking protesters back. And we saw these tense confrontations between agents and protesters really play out throughout the entire weekend.
Do you see how they were, arresting these protesters and putting them into the mud? I mean, I think that's sweet justice, in my opinion. If you're assaulting federal officers, I mean, everything's on the table. Obviously, they're not seeking to murder anybody. I'm not insinuating that whatsoever. But, if you're obstructing justice, getting away of federal law enforcement officers, they're going to think that is a show of force, and they have to respond accordingly. Now, good thing we're starting to see people fight back against Antifa in Portland, which is almost when's the last time you actually seen that on a consistent basis? It's almost like they have to wait till it gets to a certain point, and then they finally are going to do something about it. But I brought up Portland because I told you the behavior has become bizarre. So let's start with the first example of that. Protesters have been using lasers, okay? Lasers, yes, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And playing this game that we all used to play as children, laser tag. And as a result, it was being reported that it was messing with the helicopters in the sky, and it's just getting out of hand. Take a listen to this.
In Portland, this is the scene. Demonstrators got creative, hosting a nighttime protest as a game of laser tag. That protest encouraging people to shine lasers at helicopters in defiance of what they're calling the federal regime. The White House strategy, double down. Vice President J.D. Vance firing back at local authorities, vowing to litigate as much as possible to get troops on the ground. President Trump has considered invoking the Insurrection Act, a federal appeals court ruling that troops in Democratic-led cities can remain under federal control but can't be deployed, putting Chicago and Portland front and center as the appeals process continues in the ongoing showdown.
Wow. Isn't it amazing that the administration has to find loopholes in order to crack down on crime or protect federal assets? That's the world we live in today. And why is this so important for us to understand and be aware of? Well, because if it's happening in Portland and Memphis and Baltimore and Chicago and LA, it's happening in a lot of other cities too. And these people need to be exposed for the corruption that they engage in, the manipulating of the crime numbers, the stand down orders of the police officers who are pretty much handicapped from doing their job. I mean, it's really fascinating. They basically are doing to police officers what they did to ICE officers and Border Patrol under the Biden administration. Told them, no, don't deport anybody. And they're telling people in Portland, nope, don't arrest anybody. But then they go out and they arrest an investigative journalist like Nick Sorter, for an example, because he's just trying to share the truth. So it's their mindset up there is all backwards, inverse, reverse, call it whatever you want. And so I think the only solution to all of this is accountability. I really do. And accountability looks like locking up these people, not slapping them on the hand with arrests, locking them up and sending them to prison. That is the accountability. These elected leaders impeached ASAP. Now that requires the vote of the people. I understand it, which leads me to my main point before we go to the next clip here, is that at some point we just have to leave these cities alone. Why is that? Because there's an argument to be made that they just need to burn on their own. They need to fail on their own. They want to live in this massive, squalor and this Antifa crap. Let them destroy themselves. Let them eat themselves. Go right on ahead. Now, this laser tag situation got worse when they were saying it was disrupting medevac.
News has learned that some people are planning to shine lasers into the sky this weekend in an attempt to ground federal helicopters. This comes after there's been multiple arrests in recent days for laser pointing, both at police and federal aircraft. Thanks for joining us. I'm Steve Dunn.
I'm Deborah Knapp. K2 is now working to confirm what group is trying to coordinate these efforts to bring down federal helicopters. K2's Thanvi Verma joins us live now from the ICE facility in South Portland. What is happening right now, Thanvi?
So, Deb, things are not only peaceful, but they're very lighthearted. If you look behind me, you can see people have come out in costumes. You have people dressed up as pickles, bananas, frogs, even a hot dog. And at least one protester tells me he hopes things remain peaceful just like this. Protests outside the ICE facility have been going on for months. On Friday, K2 News got word of a possible new tactic, a call to shine lasers into the sky to ground federal helicopters that are flying over South Portland. Ron Magnus is a flight instructor in Washington County. He warns of the dangers of pointing lasers into the sky.
The dangers primarily are blindness on the part of the people flying the airplanes, the pilots and the other crew members.
The FBI writing on its website, when laser beams are aimed at any piloted aircraft, whether military or commercial, what might seem like a tiny beam on the ground can blind aircrew, potentially causing a mid-air collision or other incident.
In terms of shining lights at them, that's not something that I'd participate in.
At the ICE facility, one protester tells me he's not on board.
I think there are better avenues for getting our message out, like more effective resistance.
A spokesperson for the Portland Police Bureau tells us they regularly arrest people who target police aircraft.
I mean, when I say accountability, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Those people should be locked up immediately. All it takes is just one helicopter to fall out of the sky because of this. I mean, the fact that you have to shut down helicopters or prevent them from landing at hospitals, meaning they're medevacing somebody because they need urgent care, I think that's already a problem. Now, that's why I say for the people who are part of the 2%, the independents out there, Do you think that is the appropriate way to respond to what you disagree with? Stopping medevac operations, playing laser tag in the sky, assaulting ICE officers? Is that really the way that we should be responding as a country? Of course not. So ask yourself, what's more chaotic? Assaulting ICE officers, running into vehicles, vandalizing federal property, shining your laser at a helicopter, military, law enforcement, or even medevac, or ICE officers picking up someone who has a rap sheet? You ask me, you answer that. Which one's more chaotic to you? I think I have a good idea what that answer might be for some folks. Now, as you guys know, we like to show you both sides of the story, but what we're going to do actually is go to this other clip, nude protesting. I told you it gets bizarre, okay? So nude protesting is exactly what sums up what they were up to over this weekend in Portland. Let's watch that.
Scene picture beginning.
Yeah, so they're all laying on the highway, blocking vehicles.
Take the journey inside. To the foundation to receive.
Wow. Now, there's additional clips. I'm not going to show it, given I'm live streaming on Rumble. If you guys want to go see it, just go to the X. I mean, it's all there if you really want to see how, I guess if you're into that stuff, right? I'm just playing with you guys. Anyways, yeah, so there was additional clips where they were outside the ICE detention facility on their bicycles. That was one protest. They were all naked, of course. And I guess that's their way of protesting. I think it's bizarre. I think it continues to speak to the mental crisis that is continuing to occur on the left. Because I don't know about you. You're not going to find Devori with no clothes on in public. Just ain't going to happen. Okay? It's just not going to happen. And I'm definitely not going to do it in a way to protest what I disagree with. Hey, but it's their right. They can do that. They can, go out there and make themselves look stupid. That's no problem. I don't think I'm arguing against that. But I'm not really arguing anything. I'm just trying to show you guys the mental state of what's happening on the left. And we started this story with what MSDNC was saying. They said Portland's fine. It's all good. Doesn't look like it to me. Looks like a sane asylum is happening. But they let them all out on the streets. I mean, what type of person has time to do things like this? I guess that's why it happens on the weekends, right? But what type of person flashes their lasers at a helicopter? Well, I'm not a person who's in charge of their mental faculties. Like I told you, an educated person is a person who is in control of their mental faculties. They can go out there and get what they want out of life without violating the rights of others. Antifa is violating the rights of law enforcement. They are violating the rights of a helicopter pilot who's safely trying to travel. That's not an educated person. The Portland mayor, who's continuing to encourage this behavior by not condemning it to begin with, that's not an educated person either. She's continuing to put people of Portland in harm's way, especially the people who live on that street next to that building. Same thing with Mayor Brandon Johnson. He's unhinged himself too. He definitely doesn't care about crime. Him and that governor. There's no question about that. So bottom line is what? Well, we're waiting to hear from the federal appeals court today and to see which way they are going to rule. And I think that's really going to spark either a lot of backlash or a lot of celebration. And the backlash and celebration, I believe, are only going to come from the left. Because if you support Trump, you're already operating with the expectation that they may rule against them. And it's going to have to go to the Supreme Court, where we have some common sense still in our justice system. So we'll see what happens with that. All right. Having said all that, let's go back to your guys' comments here and see what you guys think about the show. and particularly what we discussed. Let me know if you guys feel the same way. Just put a yes or no in the chat box. Do you agree, no matter what side you are, when it comes to Israel, Hamas, AIPAC, pro-Israel, they're involved in everything that happens to our country, or you don't agree with that, or it doesn't matter where you stand. Do you believe the common ground point, the common sense point, is that when hostages are being returned back to their families, their bodies, whether they're alive or dead, that they're being returned and both sides are retreating, do you think that is a positive outcome towards peace? Do you think it's the right step towards peace? No matter how long that peace may last, do you think that is a right step and a good thing that both sides can agree to? Just put a yes or no in the chat box. And then finally, what do you make of Portland? I mean, I'm not trying to insult your intelligence, but you think there's any scenario where you would do the same thing, block traffic with your clothes off? Would you become nude in a way to protest Democrats or what you, I guess, don't agree with? Let me know what you would do in this scenario. And I guess more importantly, if you were in charge, what would you do with Portland and Chicago, particularly the mayor and the governor? What would you do to them? I think I have an idea. You might just throw them in prison, right? Or at least get them out of office because they are just outside this world. All right, let's take a look at some of your chats here. There we go. All right. Yep, we got a lot of yeses. Bringing the National Guard to Portland. I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree. Okay, let's see. What else? Let's get out of that. There we go. Yep, everything is so sexualized for the left. I totally agree. No, I have self-respect. Sexual deviance, I agree. Let's see here. Portland has a commie police force and a commie DA. That's why no lefty violent or predator crimes are prosecuted. You know what? That's a key thing right there. Predator crimes. Pedophiles. Nothing they have done has changed the inevitable outcome. Okay. I have 4 friends in Northwest Oregon. The only one who likes it is professionally homeless. That's a good way of putting it. Portland is the nation's largest asylum. Yeah, I agree with that. Yes, I agree. The return of hostages increases the hope for a lasting peace. They're mad because they can't get it up, so they show it to everyone. You guys are funny, man. The left is all crotch all the time. You guys are doing too much. For the love of everything holy, cover the nude bodies for those protesters. Hey, we tried, man. We tried. But it is Rumble, right? Uncensored, unfiltered. Soros prosecutor, I agree. Oh, man. Yeah, that is too funny. That is too funny. All right, let me go to YouTube and see what you guys have to say about this. Let's see. It's just too much. Too much for me, man. I agree with you guys. Let's see. Brandon Johnson is the woke wote. Who can run profitable businesses in that chaos? I don't know how people are getting by in that area, to be honest with you. I wonder what the real estate market is looking like in that neighborhood. Imagine owning a home next to the ICE detention facility. I mean, it has to have gone down. Okay, we have a super chat. William Turner Violins, thank you for bringing the content you do. Yep, thank you guys for watching. Super chat from Katie, 26. Thank you for all you do. Great work. Love your content. Thank you. Nudity is legal, so they can't arrest homeless people for not having pants on. Yeah, I get it. I get it. But that's why you never catch us living in Portland. That's for sure. All right, so now we're going to go, I guess, to the end of our show here today. Guys, I just want to say thank you for giving me an opportunity to bring the news to you in a common sense fashion. I love showing you guys both sides and encourage you to think for yourselves. There's plenty of opinions out there. There's no shortage of opinions, in my opinion. But there is a shortage of critically thinking for yourself. And I'm not a guy who knows everything. That's not me. You know, I like to speak on things I have firsthand knowledge on. And I like to see what both sides are saying and kind of dissect from there and just look at the results, because I believe the results tell the story. And if you're living your life based on results and how the results tell the story, I think it's easy to conclude that you would probably lean right on most issues, probably 99%. Because based on what the Democrats are offering, the results would show it would destroy this country a quick in a hurry. I mean, that's exactly what would happen. We saw what happened under the Biden administration. So bottom line is, whether you agree or disagree with me, that's none of my concern. My concern is you guys continue to watch Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, here on Rumble and on YouTube, and where I'm going to deliver a common sense take for you guys. So with all of that being said, I want to thank you guys for checking us out today on this Monday, on this Columbus Day, rather. And we forgot to show you a meme of Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren, but that's a thing for another day. But thank you guys for checking us out today. So grateful to have your attention. And I just want to say God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Take care, everyone.